Welcome, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sketch and Scotch. Steve, how you doing?
I'm just dandy. I'm still kind of recovering from many deadlines stacking on top of each other.
You're not really recovering because you still have a lot of them. I don't think that's recovering.
Still digging. Let's put it that way. Still digging through all of my various too many things going on at once.
Also, in other news, I have a unicorn drink from Starbucks.
Me too.
It's delicious.
It tastes like I'm deep tongue kissing a magical creature.
Don't know if I can outdo that. So yes, it's delicious. Moxon26 says that's not a real taste.
Are you just saying you don't believe in unicorns?
So everybody, welcome. First and foremost, we get to torture Steve with what we call our J Doodle.
Yeah.
We give Steve 7 minutes to draw a topic at random the rest of you will have the rest of Sketch and Scotch till the end of Sketch and Scotch to draw it and then turn it in.
And sometimes they're kind of a ridiculous challenge. Like, recreate the entire works of Dore in jelly beans. Go! Don't use that, by the way.
You said it.
That's a great suggestion.
You said it.
What have I done?
If you don't want us to have good ideas, don't put forth brilliance.
I am my own undoing.
So Steve, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Throughout this week, Steve's been working on the Patreon rewards. And there's one level of rewards where you get to request your own little cute doodly token. And Steve had a difficult request on this one that was kind of hard to think up. It is a cute female goblin. And so, that's what our J Doodle is. Ready, set, go.
Okay. I already did this, though. Like, I'm
Do another
practiced.
one.
All right. Cute female goblin.
So Steve, what did you do for Easter?
I tried to stop my mom from giving me all the
Giving you the
candy.
diabetes.
That's the way my mom expresses that she loves us, is she tries to kill us with sugar.
Pounds and pounds and pounds of sugar.
So much sugar.
Pancreases are totally overrated. You should just get rid of them, and then you won't get any kind of cancer ever again.
Yeah, seriously, what has my pancreas done for me today? Huh?
And Jenna agrees because she says goblin cute females come in sister pairs. One altar I did, maybe I should turn that in as my squam work. Janet is running a commander deck that has the Shattergang brothers, but she wanted it turned into the Shattergang sisters. And so I altered it to be Shattergang sisters. Fabidio's asking, where has Wes gone? Did he die? Hopefully. I mean...
He's dead to us.
Yeah, I don't think he actually exists either. So you guys in internet land, I've heard a lot about this Wes character, but I have never met him either.
It's because whenever you're here, he can't be.
Yeah, we've never seen you two in the same place at the same time either, Scott.
So one of us is a superhero.
And you do arrive every week in a phone booth. So that's telltale as
That's
well.
a TARDIS.
Scott, they're saying they're surprised you've lasted this long since Wes didn't. And we actually are too,
He
because
brought
keeps
us-
getting time off work.
He brings us fancy magical tongue drinks.
Wow, I didn't realize that was my official title.
You are the tongue drinker.
Oh gosh.
That is going on my business cards.
So one of the things that I is kind of interesting, even though these are just the Patreon rewards, and what this is they're cartoony and they're goofy, it still is an interesting thing to try and figure out what differentiates male and female when you're not just doing the fan servicey thing of, well, if it's female, it's got big boobs. And so one of the things I've drawn a lot of goblins, and I had to figure, well, how do I do a goblin that is differentiating from males, but it's not sexualized. It's still cute, but it's still kind of that goblin grotesque cute. There's a lot, there was a surprising amount that goes on in a cartoonified female goblin. So I'm really interested to see what all of you guys come up with. It's more of a challenge than it sounds like. Oh, is that my 7?
Yep.
All right, here's my goblin lady.
Tell us the preview of what we're going to talk about tonight, and then we'll do a little commercial break.
I figured I would default to talking about value. And value meaning light to dark, because it's very important and it goes a long way. So I was going to talk a little bit about how to use it and how to think about it.
You could maybe even show them the trick that you do where you can just use a monochromatic piece, then add the color, and it almost makes it a finish. It makes it really close to finished.
Yeah, that's actually a very common technique, and it's not new to digital by any means.
But first of all, commercial break.
All
Scott,
right.
commercial break brought to you by...
This commercial break is brought to you by copious amounts of Dr. Pepper and Krylon anti-rust paint.
Continue, Steve. Value.
There's some basic rules of thumb, which the caveat that's going to be all the time always is everything can be superseded by context. In general, the way we perceive light values is that they advance. They seem to be in the front. They get our attention. So most of the time your subject is going to be a light value, or at least have the lightest values in it. Dark values tend to recede. They get pushed into the background. Now again, context is everything. If you have a character in the foreground who is dark and the background is light, that's not going to clash. It's not going to make them look weird. But if you have a lot of various things, lighter values tend to pull your attention. They tend to feel like they're further forward. And a lot of ways, that's how people instinctually start shading things, is they'll have a character and they'll have like the forehead and the nose and the cheeks the lightest values because they're the closest to you. And that works. That ends up looking correct. But there are also a lot of clever ways to use that and to abuse it and to flip it on its head and all that sort of fun stuff. The first thing I think we should talk about is composing with value. You have your foreground, your midground, and your background, and you pick one for each, right? So if you've got your character here, there's gonna be big ol' Conan the librarian. He's got an axe that's a double-bitted book because he is learned.
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal?
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love our UHF.
So we'll have Conan in the foreground. I'll make him a little smaller. He's a bit filling. Don't say it. I heard it as soon as I said it.
You're terrible tonight, aren't you, Steve?
We're just gonna sit over here and giggle off camera.
In the foreground, we'll have like a little crocodile dragon thing. I don't know. Something. The first thing you do when you are composing an image is you try out different variations of the light, medium, dark thing. So you say, okay, well, for Conan here, if we want him to stand out the most, if he's the lightest thing, he will draw the most attention, generally. Like I say, there are no laws in art. There are guidelines. It's that classic thing of you learn the rules so that you know how to break them. First, we'll just say, okay, what if we have Conan really bright and this thing in the foreground not so bright, and then the background is dark? Okay, it works. How does that feel? Is that giving you what you want? When I do this sort of thing, I'm constantly flipping them around and saying, okay, well, what if Conan was backlit? What if he was the dark element and the background was the light element? Does that feel better to me? Like I say, there's not a right or a wrong here. It changes the way it reads. If he's backlit, he is more of a mysterious, powerful character, and the setting becomes part of his story. You don't know about him, but you know where he's from or where he's going. Whereas if he's bright and the background's dark, it feels more like, okay, he's clear. He's a clear character. You know more about him because you can see more detail. But then where is he going? His future is a little bit less known. His setting is a little less known. So that's another thing about value, is because value is associated with light, and light is associated with detail and clarity because you have to have that light to see things that are brighter in your frame tend to feel like they're a known quantity more than dark things. And then of course you can mess around with your little foreground guy. A lot of times a dark foreground element helps it balance against the other things because it's big, right? It's already here, it's big. And if it's also bright, it's really going to draw a lot of attention. So one thing you can do if you want to have that depth of there's something in the foreground, there's something in the middle, there's something in the back, is you go ahead and put something big in the foreground and then you leave it in shadow, or it's some kind of a dark value. It's something that doesn't pull as hard for people's attention. We decide what feel we want for this thing, right? We say, well, do we want it to be big bad backlit Conan? This here would be like a very classic book cover theme, reads clearly. You can further break it down. Like when I think of lighting scenarios, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm light, medium, dark. If I were to light this Conan, I would say, okay, well, he's going to have a light side, he's going to have a dark side, and he's going to have a medium side. The basic gist of this is key light, core shadow, bounce light, or secondary light. We'd say, here we go, he's being lit in this same sort of light, dark, mid-ground. In total, we're still leaving him as a light element because the light is getting the most of him, right? And so he'll still read as a light element.
Dan had a question for you when it came, you mentioned book cover art. It says, do you take into consideration the title and author when doing the art for a book cover?
Yes, absolutely. I consider the author and the title and, of course, the content, which is going to be the most important. But I would definitely not illustrate a book cover the same way for Stephen King as I would a book cover for Terry Pratchett, though that would be a funny mix-up. For unknown quantities, it's usually just best to talk with the art director. Usually you're not actually working with the author. Art directors exist for a myriad of reasons. One of them is to keep authors and artists away from each other. It's not that we clash. Actually, artists and authors get along famously. We're all weird, creative fanboys who have a lot of the same interests and are often very good friends. And that's why we have art directors, because art directors get to stand in the middle and relay messages to keep the two friends, so we can both blame the art director.
Which I agree. Dan was saying, well, what he meant is placement of title and author name for
yeah.
cover art.
Yeah, absolutely.
More what he was talking about.
That is part of the composition. So if this were a book cover, I would definitely have left a little bit more room up top.
Yeah, when you're designing for a book cover, you always leave a little bleed room, a lot of room at the top and a little bit at the bottom too. Not dead space, but space that can be covered.
So I would.
Wabbajack asked a good question we've talked about before. Do you use any visual references for lighting, like photos and such?
Yes and
Try to.
no. It kind of depends. The longer time goes on, the less I use reference, and that's not a good thing. That's a lazy thing on my part. I just end up going ahead and getting started and getting things done rather than going out and shooting reference. There's a handful of things you should know about using reference for lighting or anything else. The first is that without a fair bit of knowledge about photography first, you are going to have a little bit of a rough time because your reference will lie to you. If you understand that and you know how and you know why, then it's fine. But your reference is going to lie to you, especially in the case of heavy photo bash use. The first thing that really gets people is perspective and focal length. Let me just do a quick little thing on that.
No.
Sidetracking.
No. Your topic is value. Stay on it.
Okay, we'll do that another time. Let's write that
Wabbajack
down.
also said, do you pull a Nielsen and take photos of yourself in weird positions?
Stay on target.
Yes.
Yes.
His hands are featured in many of his pictures.
Yeah, especially hands, because hands are really, really easy. And I've got my little camera right here. So I will be drawing something. I'll be like, I'll pull up my little camera app and I'll be like, okay, what do there. That's what I want. And I'll sit and I'll draw, or I'll take a snapshot. For using photography for lighting reference, you are definitely going to get the best results if you have lighting reference and you take it, you shoot it yourself. If I were doing this right, this Conan here, I would do all of this stuff in the sketch phase. This is all before I think about reference or what he's wearing, any kind of details. The setting is just going to be basic like this, where I'll say it's going to have some spiky bits. Maybe those are castles, maybe those are cliffs, maybe those aren't as far away and they're spikes from a battlement. Like,
aren't they scary bookshelves because he's Conan the Librarian?
Yeah, it could be like a big ol'
bookshelf battlements.
what do you call the things that have the book cards in them, the Dewey Decimal cards?
It's the card catalog.
Card catalog.
Yeah, it could be card catalogs, just rows and rows and rows of them. What I would do first is figure out what pose I want him in, what lighting scenario I want him in, and then you take those photos. You want to break apart your your creative process from the reference process so that the photos don't influence the idea. You want it to influence the rendering. You want it to help you make a better piece, but you don't want it to hijack the piece. You don't want to take a bunch of pictures and then, well, this is the closest one to this is a cool one, I'll use this one. What you want is to know where the piece is going, take a bunch of pictures that may have variations on that idea, and you will, the best part of reference is you will find little things you didn't think of. The model will like have a gesture or a facial expression that you didn't think of and wouldn't have thought of, and you can include that. And you can take bits and pieces from your entire photo shoot and say, well, I really like the way he's kind of leaning on his hip in this one. The expression is great in this one. And you might want to try a few different lighting scenarios just to see. What I'm getting at is, don't start with photo reference. Start with your concept, get as many ideas out as you can, and then take photos that will give you more ideas, and those will help you flesh out the ideas you already had. There's a better way to use reference, and in my opinion at least, it's once you've run out of ideas, that's when you start looking other places. Yeah,
Shelves
so
of doom.
once you break things into, this is going to be light, this is going to be dark, then you break it into smaller pieces. So within Conan, he has his own light, dark, or light, dark, medium. This guy in the foreground, he might have a little bit of the medium light on him. You can get away with a lot of contrast on your subject and particularly around your focal point. Up here on Conan himself, we might go almost all the way to white and almost all the way to black, even though he's supposed to only be a light character. And as long as most of him is bathed in light, he will still kind of be summarized as a light character. But also,
You can also use rim light to bring him out too.
and that's one of the things you get to in composing with light, with value, that comes next, which is you can use contrast to pull focus in. So if he is this light character, and maybe we even go ahead and not go quite as dark on his shadows, he might start to lose the focal point. He's more of a light element, but he's also sort of fading into the background. So if you want him to be lighter like this, and an example is in glamour photography, they try to avoid shadows at all costs. So they're not going to get these core shadow kind of ideas. And if that's what you're going for on your cover, because it's supposed to be a soft character, or it's a romance novel and you want the two to look just as perfect as possible and stuff, you might not go for these hard core shadows and cast shadows. So what you can do is start using contrast of value, where you say, okay, well, we're gonna have some dark elements to frame these light elements, and that brings him back into the foreground. We're going a little bit darker than the mid-tones that we originally planned for here, but we also went lighter on the character. If you look through a lot of the art that you think is striking, take a look at how they have composed light on dark. For me, one of the things that I see appeals to me a lot is these sort of rings where you have a light thing and then a dark thing and then a light thing. And so I tend to compose with that in mind a lot, where I'll have a light element framed on a dark element that then has its own not as light element behind it. So it's almost like a bullseye coming out. It really pulls people into that focal point.
And this is why that whole idea of value and sketching stuff out like that is really helpful and useful. Is don't start to get confused with color and everything like that. Get a good core sketch, a good core feel and strength to it before you start complicating it more.
Yeah, one step at a time, like we've said before, is always gonna yield better results. The more things you have to juggle at once, the more likely you're gonna drop some balls.
I wasn't laughing until Kat started.
We really do need to work more balls into the show. Anyhow, And you, as you're composing, you can keep looking at this and saying, well, what is too strong versus what is not strong enough, and you can build these things out. So having this darker helped bring out the focal point of his head, but making it fit the rest of him, this little lizard guy started to get lost. So we put some rocks, or maybe they're also spiky things, to give him a little bit of an edge to lead you back into, hey, there's a lizard here. The legs felt like they were very bright, very strong, so we put a mid-tone next to them so that they don't pull as much attention. And you just sort of keep doing this, you push and you pull, and again, you are not worried one bit about detail at this point. You're not worried about proportion. You're not worried about any of those other things. You're just like, well, light and dark, basic stuff. Where am I looking at this in this very simple composition with nothing glaring? What is drawing my attention? What should be drawing my attention? How do I push and pull this to where it fits? It's doing what it's supposed to do. Then you move on to the next step. At various stages, from beginning to end, one of my little personal Photoshop tricks. It's very tricky, especially in a traditional medium, to paint where things go from a little darker to a little lighter as you get toward a focal point. Light to dark. Because of this thing we talked about earlier, with the light being something that pulls you forward, pulls your attention, and dark being something that pushes it back, a little bit of a difference from one to the other will pull your viewer's attention, pull the focal point. I do this several times during a painting while I'm working. I'll make a little gradient, a little radial gradient, and I'll back up a little bit since I did this without showing you. So it's just a gradient that goes from light to dark, right? Really basic.
And you did an overlay.
And then I'll make it an overlay layer, sometimes a soft light layer, but something subtle. And then I will move it around, because you can see this changes the focal point, right? If it's here, wow, his face is really there. If I move it down here, that kind of changes the entire focus, right? Now we're looking at this crocodile guy. Those are pretty much the only two focal points, but if you decided you really wanted to show off this book, you can put it there. I will go ahead and just put a spotlight on what I want to show up, and then you dial it back, right? You don't want it to be that overpowering, but if you go from here to there we go, maybe something like that. It's a subtle gradient that nobody's gonna notice. They're not gonna go, yeah, obviously there's this big gradient, they just put a light on it. But the effect still works. It just draws you right in. Really, really, really great oil painters, they do this as they go. Contemporary oil painters do it. Chris Ron and Howard Lyon, they blow me away with every piece they put out, because they seem to just put the paint exactly where it's supposed to be, at exactly the color and value it's supposed to be. Whereas when I'm working, I'm fiddling constantly. I'm like, well, this should be darker. No, it should be darker. This should be redder. No, I don't like it red. And I'm back and forth all the time. And that is the strength and the weakness of working digitally, is you can change your mind forever. When you lay down some oil paint, it's more work to change your mind. The other thing that draws people's attention is details, little things, little fiddly bits. That's another thing I tend to do in the composition stage. I'll say, okay, this is working. I don't like having as much bare frontage on Conan here, partially for rating reasons, but also because it's just pulling too far down. So I said, okay, well, he should obviously have a loincloth. That's a Conan thing. And that breaks up this big mass of white that was pulling, or of light that was pulling too much attention. And then up here around his head, I thought, okay, well, if we have a little bit more of those, it's getting a little bit more of this light on dark on light on dark on light on dark. So his helmet is breaking up these masses, but providing additional detail to pull attention. These are basically two different functions. The loincloth is breaking up a big mass so that it doesn't draw attention. These small little bits are breaking up a mass in a complex way that does get your attention. So you're like, well, what's going on with his face? You can figure out what his helmet really looks like later. The idea is you're saying this needs more contrast. this needs more light, this needs more dark, this should be broken up more, this should have more resting space for the eyes. All that weird stuff that nobody really knows what you're talking about. But as you fiddle with it, you kind of get it. On each piece, you'll go, yeah, no, I kind of like having this a little bit darker, this a little bit lighter. And believe me, if you had finished the painting and made these discoveries that, oh, he needs a loincloth, it's a lot more work than what we just did. So making these decisions and these evaluations early, you'll have a much stronger piece in the end. You'll be much less frustrated while you're working. It's just a quicker, easier way to do all of this. As far as a value composition, this is actually about as far as I would typically take something before starting on a drawing. Depending, I guess there is more. Like if there are things in the description, like maybe Conan is supposed to have an axe over his shoulder, I would decide what value his little strap would be, or whatever, little things like that. That is still important. You need the strap to be there, but you don't want it to be too strong. If you've seen when I turn in sketches for various clients, I try and put those up on my website, and sometimes I'll post them on social media. A lot of times what they get is 4 to 10 of these.
Thumbnails.
Little value thumbnails. I could send them a nice refined drawing. A lot of folks will do that. But I find that these communicate the idea of what that final painting is going to be a lot better. This is much closer to what the final is going to look like, even if it's missing details. Most art directors that I've worked with seem to respond better to these. And part of that is me. Part of that is when they see this and they know my work, they know that it's gonna be detailed. I get obsessive about detail in the end stages. So they're not worried that it's going to be messy and blurry, and all the little things that they've bullet pointed aren't going to be there. That's going to be fine. For me and for my art directors, as messy as this is a clearer picture of what a final is going to look like. And if I'm composing for myself, same thing. I do it the same way, because this shows you where you're going in a lot of ways better than a nice drawing would. Now, a nice drawing will follow after this, and we'll do this we'll cover this sort of thing on a different episode. What a lot of folks will do is they will work entirely in black and white until they're done, and they have a complete value painting, oftentimes with texture and highlights and all the bells and whistles. I mean, it's done, except it's black and white. And then they will colorize it. And there's a handful of ways to colorize a black and white drawing. I go about halfway. I will colorize this, the black and white, and then paint the details in color. I find that gives me a better result. But that's just me. That's just the way that works best for me. Digitally, it's much easier than traditionally, but this is actually not starting in digital. There have been many techniques throughout traditional painting that start with a black and white drawing. There's the Flemish 7-layer style, where they build it all in black and white, and then they do glaze after glaze after glaze of colors in transparent colors, and then they punch back in highlights and things like that. So you can get plenty of resources on how to do this in any medium. This is not a Photoshop thing.
Well, but it works
It's not
really
only a
well in
Photoshop thing, I should
Photoshop.
say.
It works really well, like you were kind of talking about.
So the first thing people try, I'm going to show you because it doesn't work, is they just say, well, I'm going to get a skin color, and here we go, he's got their skin color. And you might pick this straight from a photo, and it's like, why doesn't this look like skin on him anymore? Oh, well, maybe it's too orange. We'll go pink. Oh, that looks worse. Well, maybe it's skin yellow. Oh, that's worse. As we've talked about on other episodes, problem with a lot of things, and especially skin, is that they don't stay the same color as they go from dark to light.
And they're contextual.
Right? It's partially our visual apparatus. We perceive colors differently according to the value that they are. Even if the thing is just this color, where it's lighter, our rods and cones react differently. So we're perceiving more or less saturation and even a little bit different hue. Without getting too much into the weird science of that, the first quick, easy workaround is, if you do have big areas that are going to be kind of the same color, is gradient maps. You say, well, this is all skin, so we'll make a gradient map. And what a gradient map is it's taking your black to white value and it's assigning whatever you want to put in there. So it's taking this and saying, okay, this is where black would be. What color do you want for black? This is where white would be. What color do you want for white? And any step you want in between. So you say, okay, well, for black, we don't want it to go all that dark. We'll do kind of burnt umbery or something. Then where we have white, that's where we're going to get kind of a more yellow, and it's going to be less saturated. But of course, that still doesn't look like skin. That's because there's a lot that happens in between. So in between, we're going to have more saturated values. And you see that it's not maintaining the values that I have. If I go way dark here, it's going to go way dark. If I go really light, it's changing it as it goes. Now, that is something to know. It's not good or bad. If you really want to keep your value, you can say, we only want to change the color. If I go dark or light, doesn't make any difference. This is where you can roughly put in what happens to the color as it goes from light to dark. And that'll get you closer, but it won't get you there to something that is more like the surface you're going for. So I'll often start with a little bit of that. On top of this, or in addition to it, you can do some overlays. Overlay kind of is like a gel that tints things and kind of affects value, but more affects color. There's a lot of layer types, and they all do very interesting things. And one of these episodes, maybe we'll just go bullet point by bullet point. This is exactly what it does, because it's good to know. But in general, overlay will help you adjust and tint things. It affects value, it affects color, but it leaves a fair bit. You can think of it as either a transparent gel on top of it, or a light source that is a little bit more exclusive than, say, soft light, which is a lot like what it sounds like. You can make adjustments with your overlay layer. You can say, well, I think maybe we put some deeper red, maybe around his shoulders and his chest, make him look flushed, make it a little battle. Maybe he's got a little bit more of that in the face too. Maybe the fingers, and then maybe we actually add like some of the complement here in the shadow, so that we have a little differentiation of light sources as well as our value. So that helps us see that this is a shape that's turning, and there's a different light source on the other side, which is something we've talked about before. You can just sort of go layer by layer
and kind of mess with that, but it's a quick way to kind of colorize something from a black and white.
Yeah, just the last little follow-up is you can see that whether I'm doing the gradient map or just painting in some colors, this is a great way to start working through your color scheme. Now, this is just getting started. We don't have time to keep going. It's a different lesson entirely, but you get the idea. This isn't where I would land on it, but you can just play with whatever color schemes you want. Like the light dark middle thing that we did at the beginning, you can do a few different versions and see what you like. Yeah, you can colorize a black and white picture is the point here. So the black and white is never a waste of time. Okay, now we're gonna do squam work. The squam work topic was to make a minion. The most classic version of the minion is an angel who is too fat to fly, but is finding a way to do it anyway. The minions they're these cute little characters that are either born to do something and can't quite do it but find a way, or they're born not to do something and find a way to do it anyway. So this first one is Jamek, and this is his minion. I recognize him. The zombie. I guess it's necromantic energy he's using cleaning up, right? Or is he a pyromancer? Huh?
No, he's a necromancer, because he had a joke earlier that made Brittany laugh a lot and propose to him. But I had to reload the Twitch, so I lost it. He had a name for it because it was like Jace the... I don't remember. He'll write it again. J-Mix was Full Mill Alchemist instead of Full Metal Alchemist.
Here's Dan.
Yes, Dan, that's a very cute one, and he even posted a picture of his minion. Trash removal by Dwagon.
Burninating.
I think
Excellent.
that's so cute.
It is. It's super cute. It probably doesn't smell great, but it's super cute. Or maybe he's the kind of dragon that burns so hot that it basically just leaves a perfect sheen of glass on the floor.
The glass dragon.
All right, next up is Esteraxo. I saw his earlier. It made me laugh.
It's got the angel in the background with the balloons.
Mm-hmm. and the huge mess.
And the mess.
And that is his that is totally what his minion looks like, the one on the floor.
He has had a heck of a night.
Well, you did say it was a huge party. I think that is
was.
actually a beautiful illustration of what the giant minion party was.
This is Cabby Boys. Oh, they're so tiny and adorable.
They're drawing all over.
That's great.
They put a heart around the one picture.
Oh, that's super cute. Those are super adorable. I love how tiny they are.
Does he have a censored symbol?
Is that what that
Wait,
is?
zoom in. I want to see more.
Is that a not safe for work minion? Is that what that is?
Oh, and they painted all over his screen, and they painted on his sheet. Oh my gosh.
They're little imps. That's awesome. Here's Panda. Fire cleanses. That it does. Cat doesn't let me clean the kitchen that way anymore, though.
Mess of the minions, flames, Rog Lobster.
Oh, party rodent. Who's the party rodent?
There's a party rodent she's pointing at.
I wanna
Although
know
it's gonna
his
get burned
story.
by fire too.
Maybe he's quick, or maybe he's so soaked in alcohol that he's gonna just become a little party rodent.
J-Mix says that Panda's a little too excited for arson. If you've met Panda, you'd understand.
Yeah.
Fire.
Fire.
So this is Gypsy Tuna Fish.
Oh gosh. It's so cute.
It is super cute Robo Minion.
I really like the two-tone you do on that. I've always wanted to be able to do like a toned drawing like that, and I've never been able to succeed like I want to.
Right, yeah. I always think of
Nice.
you did a nice job here. I always think of Donato with his sketches, right, where he has the two-tone.
Yeah, like the one we
Oh,
have in the
yeah,
front
yeah.
room.
Yeah.
I just stare at that one. It's
And you go, how?
yeah, I really like the two-tone. I
Yeah.
can't do it. I'll keep working on it.
So we're gonna move on to our J Doodle.
Oh, is this J-Mix?
This is J-Mix, yes.
It is very cute.
It's a little goblin schoolgirl.
Is she stealing someone's socks? Ankle Glomper the Fierce is what they called that one. Is what J-Mix named his. Eritrill said the leg's already stolen. She's just carrying it home to feed her children.
Good show. Well played. So this is Asteroxo.
Oh, and it has a little goblin family in the background. No fire explosives for you tonight. Go to your room.
Aww.
Aw.
Grounded.
What would a goblin child do that could get them grounded?
She
Probably
fixed something.
read.
Panda said she took a bath and that's why she's grounded. The goblin girl is grounded as she took a bath.
No daughter of mine will bathe, I tell you.
We've worked hard to build up that layer of filth. So this is Dan's.
See, Dan's actually reminds me of when we started, and Steve and I just started the discussion of how do you draw a female goblin? Well, how do you know? He's like, well, I guess you just don't know. And I'm like, that's my point. Maybe a goblin doesn't have those gender, like,
Could be like with dwarves with the beards.
the
Sort of thing,
females
maybe.
also have beard. And so, yeah, this one just kind of reminds me of what we talked about, where it's
Right.
like, how do you tell the difference between a male or female goblin? I don't know. They look the same.
That sounds like there's a joke in there. How do you tell the difference between a male goblin and a female goblin?
The one with lipstick. This one's adorable. This goblin.
This is Cabby Boy.
This looks like a goblin from, this looks like it's from that one,
Adventures of Zelda is kind of what I was thinking. Is
no,
it kinda
I
has
thought
a-
it looked more like the game, the la 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 la.
Oh, Rayman.
Yeah, it looks like a Rayman goblin. That totally reminds me of a Rayman goblin. I like the hair on that one a lot, actually.
I'm also blown away by how much you guys do in such a short time.
Me too. I mean, I've been practicing for like 15 years.
Aw,
I
whose
forget
is
the
that
name.
one with the hearts and the balloons?
The super cute one.
Yeah.
Aw.
Is that Panda?
That's Panda.
That's so cute. Panda has an eye for, and it's kind of what we were talking, was it 2 times ago where we were talking about how to draw simple and efficient, but really get the points across?
Mm-hmm.
She has a very good eye for that.
Just kind of get down to the essence.
Yeah.
It is a valuable and underrated skill. This is
Original painting
Brittany.
ever bought.
Wow, you made a lot of progress. She's practically got a fully rendered face here. Yeah, that looks great.
And she also included her.
even if it's just the face, like she's clearly female
Yeah.
and cute. So
Yeah, wow,
kudos.
good job.
Good work.
And she also, I thought she wasn't gonna do J Doodle, and she did all that, and then she also gave you some smart aleck minion put in the notes and bonus section. So actually, Cabby Boy has a bonus, and then she also put in a bonus of her excuse not to art, and it's a picture of her and her baby. Oh, Steve, you have to go look at actually Cabby Boy's bonus.
Okay, we'll take a brief hiatus for the bonuses.
It's a close-up, or it's one of the featured minions from before. It's the censor minion.
Okay, I love him.
That's why I told you had to see the bonus. So yes, I
love
believe
that
Cabby
he's just
Boy.
covered
Yes.
in censor mess. So this is a fantastic excuse not to art. We will accept this as an excuse.
Except
Although
she
you
still
did
arted.
anyway, so and you managed to get
Which means you no longer have an
lot
excuse at
done.
all.
Oh, super cute. So this is cats. This is an altar cat made for Quiet Sea of the Shattergang brothers into the Shattergang sisters.
Me and my sister love drinking ginger ale. It's been the theme of the night, I guess. And so those are our favorite ginger ales, and cheering and drinking ginger ale.
One of Janet's favorite things is to point out that this particular ginger ale, the Goya, and they have different types, but there is one type that has, it's like 40 grams of ginger, and then it has capsaicin added into it. It's so potent that her favorite thing is to point out that I have to cut it with scotch because that's how strong it is. It's easier to drink if you add half scotch to it. It's not that it makes the scotch easier to drink. It makes the ginger ale easier to drink. We have a named goblin, Doretti, the young apprentice tinkerer. That's awesome. This is before he turned to evil.
Oh, I don't know. He might be there already. By the way, kudos on Doretti. I love playing Doretti.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I like
love his
the
little
3D,
robot
or
friends.
not the 3D, the perspective that he used on it, and especially because it's like a workshop, and so like the blueprint
Yeah,
perspective
right.
kind of helps add to the workshop feel.
A lot.
I like the things hanging from the ceiling too.
And then again, just the use of the light and the dark, just bringing in the focus.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, and the little
nice.
robot poking his head up
one's
over the edge.
This one's Gypsy Tuna Fish, by the way.
Gypsy said he can't draw female gobbies, so you get a quick Doretti instead. I think that looks fine. I would
like it.
consider that a female gobby. Oh, this is Moxon. Moxon is new this week. That's the note they put in.
Oh, hello.
Welcome,
Welcome,
Oh, and they've
Moxon.
been chatting all night. It's been awesome.
And
So
you-
this is Moxon's, and I like it a lot.
It's great. And you also, like, kind of inadvertently also covered, I believe it was a Squomework from several weeks ago with the propaganda poster. So you got it covered.
Rosie the Riveter Goblin.
I really, and I know this is gonna sound funny, and I've said it before, I find weird little, like, details in pictures that I love. I really like that shirt and, like, how it hangs off the shoulder and the lines on it. It's really cool.
Yeah, me too. That's awesome.
So.
She looks like a very capable goblin. And here we have Eredtrill.
This is their first time, oh my gosh. This is their first time verbally participating, and we're super happy.
That is funny. I like her.
Oh my gosh, I liked it. And his note was this, oh geez, this is hella rushed. That is beautifully rushed. I think that's wonderful.
Totally worth it. That's great.
100%. Thank you for, oh my gosh.
That expression that's fair.
And I imagine her having that voice. I've smoked cigarettes for my entire life. Kind
What's her
of-
name from Gravity Falls? Brenda?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's killing me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
One
we
more.
had one more.
Scots.
Oh, Scots. Oh, Scott, she's so cute and
And
terrifying.
mischievous.
Trying to.
What do you have there? Nothing. Now turn around.
Yeah, yours is so cute. Innocent hammer. Very nicely done.
Okay, I think that's everything.
Everyone, I love the artwork. Thank you so much. I actually really liked what Asteroxo and Brittany and everyone had to say about. I mean, you'll do art, you'll do good pieces, you'll do bad pieces. It's great to share all of it and get it out there. I really like that people kind of talked on that tonight. I actually have the schoolwork this week, but on Facebook there's actually been a lot of artists who have been taking pictures that they drew when they were kids and then redoing them as a professional artist. I want you guys to find an old piece of art, and Steve, for you, I'm even talking older than the beginning of your professional career. I want to see something from when you were younger.
I think Steve should redo the dresser.
We've seen people just over the last year change and grow and just come up with amazingly awesome stuff, and so I think that this would be a really cool thing. Black Meadow, you were asking about our squirm work? There's your squirm work. Find something, dig up a picture from when you were little, and redo it.
Thanks
So,
for joining us for another week, and we hope to see you
come
next
back next
time.
week.
Come back next time.
Wednesday, 8
Same
o'clock, Mountain
bat
Standard Time.
Same bat channel.
Yep.
Sketch time, sketch channel.
Same sketch time, same sketch channel. We know you're staying up with us. We really appreciate all of it, and we appreciate the support. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.